held during the and co-organized by the State of Qatar and UN Women. The priority theme, ensuring and strengthening access to justice for all women and girls through inclusive and equitable legal systems, the elimination of discriminatory laws and practices, and the removal of structural barriers, resonates strongly.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. If I may ask if we can take our seats so we can begin. Thank you so much. Excellencies, distinguished ministers, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, it's such a great honor to welcome you all to this high-level side event held on the occasion of the 70th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, convened by the State of Qatar in collaboration with Bangladesh, Cote d'Ivoire, Egypt, Morocco, Serbia, Singapore, UN Women, and IDLO. We are particularly pleased to see such a distinguished group of ministers, senior officials, and experts joining us today, reflecting the strong global commitment to advancing women's empowerment and strengthening access to justice for women and girls. Dear colleagues, from the 4th to the 6th of November last year, the State of Qatar was proud to host a highly successful and historic Second World Summit for Social Development, which culminated in the action-oriented Doha Political Declaration. The Doha Declaration recognizes that access to justice is a fundamental human right and a key element of social development, closely linked to efforts to promote women's empowerment. The priority theme for this year's CSW focuses on ensuring and strengthening access to justice for all women and girls, and that achieving this goal requires the removal of structural, legal, and social barriers, along with the elimination of discriminatory laws, policies, and practices. Against this backdrop, today's conversation aims to explore good practices and solutions demonstrating how advancing social development commitments, including in the areas such as education, social protection, family empowerment, care systems, and inclusive public services, can contribute to ensuring and strengthening access to justice for all women and girls. I would like to propose that our discussion revolves around two fundamental questions, which have been shared with you in advance. One, the Doha Political Declaration of the Second World Social Summit recognizes that access to justice is closely linked to social development and women's empowerment. This year's CSW priority theme also focuses on strengthening access to justice for all women and girls through inclusive legal systems and the removal of discriminatory laws and structural barriers. Excellencies, in this context, what social policies in your country are helping to advance these goals and the commitments of the Doha Political Declaration, and their approaches or that could be adapted or replicated in other contexts? Time permitting, another follow-up question would be, looking ahead, what one priority action, reform, or partnership do you believe is most critical to accelerate progress on access to justice for women and girls in line with the ambitions of CSW 70th and the Doha Political Declaration? As our program is quite full, demonstrating the strong interest in this topic, I kindly invite speakers, of course, to limit their interventions to approximately 3 minutes so that we can hear from all our distinguished panelists. Without further ado, it is my great honor to introduce a video message from Her Excellency Mrs. Buthaina bint Ali Al Jabr Al Naimi, Minister of Social Development and the Family of the State of Qatar, who was originally scheduled to deliver the keynote address. Unfortunately, due to the evolving situation in the Middle East and the closure of the airspace, Her Excellency is unable to join us, of course, in person today. We are nevertheless grateful that she has kindly shared her remarks with us through this video message. Please, if we can play the message.
Distinguished ministers, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to participate in this side event on access to justice for women and girls held during the 70th session of the Commission on the Status of Women and co-organized by the State of Qatar and UN Women. The priority theme, ensuring and strengthening access to justice for all women and girls, through inclusive and equitable legal systems, the elimination of discriminatory laws and practices, and the removal of structural barriers, resonates strongly with the commitments adopted in November 2025 in the Doha Political Declaration of the Second World Summit for Social Development. In Doha, member states affirmed that access to justice is a cornerstone of social development and human dignity, and emphasized the need for integrated social, economic, and legal approaches. Excellencies, the State of Qatar's commitment to women's empowerment is grounded in the firm conviction that sustainable development cannot be achieved without the full and meaningful participation of women across all spheres of society. Our permanent constitution guarantees equality before the law and enshrines the principle of non-discrimination. Building on these foundations, Qatar has expanded women's participation across legislative, judicial, administrative, and political sectors in line with its constitutional and international commitments. We have moved from political commitment to practical actions through integrated evidence-based and measurable and sustainable policies. In 2025, the Ministry of Social Development and Family launched the National Social Development Strategy 2025-2030 under the theme From Care to Empowerment. This strategy promotes women's participation in public life, supports female entrepreneurship, and advances equal opportunities in education, health, and employment, while ensuring that policies translate into tangible improvements in women's daily lives and family well-being. In addition, amendments to the Civil Human Resources Law have strengthened maternity protections, promoted flexible and family-friendly workplaces, and supported women in managing professional and family responsibilities. Access to justice also requires inclusive and representative institutions. Qatar was among the first in our region to appoint women as judges, and today women serve across civil, commercial, and criminal courts, contributing to justice systems that are responsive to women's experiences and needs. As of March 2025, women represent approximately 13% of judges in Qatar. Moreover, the judiciary system is actively increasing female representation with plans to reach 30% by 2030. We also continue to strengthen institutional frameworks and specialized social support services, including protection, counseling, and referral pathways, recognizing that accessible support systems are essential to translating legal rights into lived realities. Excellencies, advancing access to justice requires sustained political will, robust institutions, effective legislation, and close collaboration with families and communities. The State of Qatar reaffirms its steadfast commitment to working with the United Nations and all member states to translate our shared commitments into tangible outcomes that empower women and girls and enhance their access to justice. I thank you.
We are very thankful to Her Excellency for those important remarks and for sharing Qatar's perspective on advancing social development and women's access to justice. We will now, of course, move to the high-level part of the event. We are fortunate, of course, to have a true distinguished panel today representing diverse regions and experiences. I will start by giving the floor to my dear sister, Ambassador Maritza Chan Valverde, Chair of the 70th session of the Commission on the Status of Women and the Permanent Representative of Costa Rica. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, dear Alia and colleagues. It's an honor for me to be here today. The theme of today's conversation is access to justice. And access to justice was named in Beijing as a condition of equality. 30 years later, Doha and CSW 70 are asking us to account for what we've built and to be honest about where we fell short. Doha reaffirmed that social protection, decent work, and people-centered institutions are the foundation of development. CSW 70 holds that access to justice for women and girls is inseparable from those foundations. A woman carrying the full weight of unpaid care without economic independence, without public services within reach, faces a distance to justice that no legal procedure closes on its own. Justice is a social condition before it is a legal one. Costa Rica has learned that legal reform alone delivers less than it promises. We enacted domestic violence legislation, criminalized femicide, established specialized courts. All of those are necessary steps. But the women who benefit the most were those who already had a stable income and access to services. The women furthest from justice remain far. What changed the equation was integration. Costa Rica's National Institute for Women is embedded in the social protection architecture alongside health services and the Public Defender's Office and child welfare institutions. Women experiencing just violence are met within the system, not referred across a fragmented one. Legal aid is available regardless of income. That model is replicable, and we're here to share it. Our lesson is that legal frameworks matter, but dedicating financing matters more. 30 years of promises have demanded an enormous amount of patience from the women who were supposed to benefit from them. That patience was never theirs to give. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Maritza, for this very important perspective. And again, we recognize this is an exceptionally busy week for you, so we're very thankful for your presence with us and prioritizing being with us today. Let me now move on, and I have the honor, of course, to giving the floor to His Excellency Mr. Goh Pei Meng, Minister of State for Family and Social Development of Singapore. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. And there's some pressure being the only male on the panel here, a very distinguished panel. First, let me thank our Qatari host for the invitation. Very, very honored to be here to share Singapore's perspective on this very important topic. Singapore's approach towards advancing women's justice systems centers on two key pillars. First, being legislative reforms that prioritizes safety and protection. And second, systemic economic participation for our women that focuses on dismantling structural barriers and ensuring women can participate fully within society. Our experience demonstrates that meaningful progress requires both ensuring there's protection and access, as well as making sure that inhibitions, prohibitions are being removed. And allow me to elaborate on these two key pillars. First, on legislative reforms. Any discussion on access to justice must first begin with safety, because protection from violence is the foundation that enables individuals to be able to participate fully. One key legislation in Singapore from our very early independence years is the Women's Charter. It is a key legislative document that enshrines women's rights in Singapore, protects them for society, within marriage, as well as protection from domestic violence, and enhances various rehabilitation and accountability efforts. Besides legal orders which keeps perpetrators at a distance, the Women's Charter also enshrines certain protection, such as having protection forces within Singapore. There is actually a police domestic violence response team that allows for immediate intervention where there's necessity to. More recently, we also passed a new law, the Online Safety, Relief and Accountability Act, just in November last year. And within this act, it allows us to establish a new Online Safety Commission that will look into timely redress for victims of online harms, including online harassment, including intimate image abuse, as well as child abuse. The second pillar I would like to talk about is on economic empowerment. On this, we recognize that women play multiple roles in society, and Singapore's approach is to enable them to participate fully in employment, to achieve their career aspirations, and not to be denied opportunities just because of their gender, or their family commitment, or what society expects them to do. In Singapore, what we have observed is we are able to achieve education outcomes. I think that's the first starting point. We've achieved literacy rates which are high at 96%. And amongst all graduates we have in Singapore, 52%, more than half, are actually women. In terms of employment outcomes, we have also achieved an employment rate of 78% amongst all our female adults. We actually have a Workplace Fairness Act, which strengthens protection against workplace discrimination, which ensures that there's fair and harmonious workplace norms. This act prohibits discrimination based on gender, based on marital status, pregnancy, caregiving responsibilities, and employers must put in place fair employment practices, grievance handling processes, and are prohibited from retaliating so that employees can feel safe to raise grievances. In Singapore, we also recognize that women tend to shoulder a disproportionate share of caregiving and household responsibilities. And policies which enable caregivers to get respite, to have equal access to their employment in addition to caregiving duties are important. Preschool services, for example, is a key pillar. And we have, through the government, ensured we provide high quality, accessible, and affordable preschool services, which are highly subsidized and cater to 80% of the population. In particular, we also ensure lower income families are well given access to preschool services. Per month, it costs as cheap as $3 for every child. As a male ally on this journey, I'm also proud to share that in Singapore, fathers can take up to 10 weeks of paid paternity leave. And through efforts to encourage active fathering at home, we want to foster a good balance, both at home and at the workplace, and that men are expected to shoulder an equal amount of caregiving support to the wife, as well as do some of the work at home. I see some sniggers amongst the crowd, but I think there's something that we need to do more of if we want to promote equality between the gender and a balance. So Singapore's overall approach through these two pillars suggests that meaningful progress may benefit from coordinated action across legal reform, social policy, and economic empowerment. And we appreciate the valuable efforts made in Doha Political Declaration that advances this important agenda for women's development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Mr. Meng, for valuable insights and for sharing Singapore's experience in advancing integrated social policy that supports women empowerment and access to justice, and as well the experience you have shared with us on how you are supporting work-family balance. Thank you so much. Let me move on, and it gives me great pleasure now to give the floor to Her Excellency, Mrs. Naima bin Yahya, Minister of Solidarity, Social Inclusion and Family of the Kingdom of Morocco. Please, Your Excellency.
شكرا سيدة رئيسة أصحاب.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Excellencies, the ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to commend the State of Qatar for their kind invitation, expressing my delight to be present here on the issue of access to justice for women and girls' access to justice in view of the Doha Declaration of the second Social Development Summit in order to develop our judicial system. It is my honor to share with you the experience of my country in this respect, in consonance with the directives of His Majesty King Mohammed al-Sadis, may God preserve him, who emphasized in more than one occasion the strategic importance of reforming justice as an essential entrance to respect the rights of men and women at the same time, and the constitutional efforts to develop the justice system and to provide services that will render services to all interested parties and to enhance comprehensive social development in the field of legislative and political reforms. by adopting constructive legislative policy which will making it closer to the citizens, especially women and girls, taking into consideration the situation of women in rural areas, the elderly women, women with disabilities. Several regulatory laws which emphasize the independence of the judiciary as well as Office of the Attorney General and are taking their resolutions to ensure just judgments and gender equity, combating violence against women, which joins preventive and services and justice for those for women who are abused, developing the infrastructure for courts and to strengthen their specialties with specialized courts, implementing the strategic approach for digital development of justice, especially women and girls, and in marginalized groups. And the field of social development is a direct investment in social stability and economic growth. In this respect, and the commitments that are included in the Doha Declaration, which emphasizes the social aspect as very important, and to combat marginalization and the Kingdom of Morocco. In the Kingdom of Morocco, the Moroccan judicial system plays an important role in protecting the rights of women and to emphasizing stability. Thank you.
Yahya for as well sharing with us the Kingdom of Morocco's perspective on supporting women's empowerment and access to justice, and as well addressing the laws in place to eliminate violence against women and the use of technological means to improve women's access to justice. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Let me move on now, and I would like to give the floor to Her Excellency Judge Amal Mahmoud Ata Ammar, President of the National Council for Women of the Arab Republic of Egypt. Please, you have the floor, Your Excellency.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شكرا السيدة الرئيس.
In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, thank you, Madam Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased at the outset to extend my sincere thanks to the State of Qatar, the sisterly State of Qatar, for organizing this high-level side event and for the gracious invitation which collect us to advance social development and empower women and girls from the Doha Development Political Declaration of the World Social Summit. Access to justice for women is a real principle for the commitment of a state for sustainable development and human rights. In Egypt, we are keen on translating that commitment to concrete initiatives starting with the national initiative 2030 launched by President Sihi based on four pillars: socioeconomic pillars and empowerment. And through the laws and legislations, we are keen on keeping the legislations to maintain the dignity and rights of women. And we have shrunk the
الضارة كما تم تعزيز الحماية القانونية
the removal of female genital mutilization. In addition to that, there are legislations that safeguard the women's rights to inheritance in a manner that fosters her social status, and through socio-economic empowerment procedures, we launched the Karama initiative, taking special care of women who care for families, and more than 8 million. And there are economic empowerment and rehabilitation in cooperation with the civil society, such as the initiative She Leads, وهي تقود, and rehabilitating the girls and students, and in addition to supporting the participation in the work market, we are trying to expand the network of kindergartens as well as domestic care in a manner that alleviates the burden on women and enhances her participation in socio-economic life. Through legal and social support, we established a number of units to follow the needs of women in different sectors. The Office of Looking into the Complaints of Women receives their complaints from all the governorates of the country, either through the hotline or direct presence, and it presents psychological, social, free services, as well as pursuing the cases with the competent authorities. There are units in the police precincts as well as the universities to protect women, in addition to awareness campaigns with the participation of development partners. The National Statistic Office also has input into that, which helps elaborating the public policies through the societal awareness and education. There are programs that help girls in the countryside to complete education with educational bonuses, as well as investment in girls with the care and supervision of the First Lady. The human rights of women are part and parcel of the educational curricula in addition to social campaigns to change the stereotypes about women and to bring about their participation in society, such as the campaign of I Say Inni Aqul. These are not mere declarations. We are trying to translate policies into concrete initiatives that combine education, social life, social protection, and economy that will help women exercise their full rights. We press ahead to achieve full justice for women and girls, and to foster socio-economic empowerment and guarantee the effective participation of women in line with the Doha Political Declaration. We express our full support and cooperation with the Palestinian women and girls everywhere, and we call upon the international community to support their abilities, because the achievement of peace to guarantee dignified life for women is everywhere. We have to create a world and a concrete steps to foster prosperity to everybody. Thank you. God's peace and blessings be on you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Judge Amal Ammar, for sharing with us very important reflections on Egypt's efforts to promote gender equality, women's access to justice, and as well women economic empowerment that goes hand in hand. Thank you so much. Let me move on now, and I would like to give the floor to Her Excellency Mrs. Tatiana Makura, Minister in charge of Gender Equality, Prevention of Violence Against Women, and Economic Empowerment of Women of the Republic of Serbia. Please, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Distinguished Chair of the 70th CSW, Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Serbia is committed to strengthening the rule of law and building institutions that are responsive to the needs of all citizens. In this context, improving access to justice for women and girls is closely connected with broader reforms aimed at strengthening judicial institutions, combating discrimination, and promoting equal opportunities. Our legal framework provides a solid foundation for protecting the rights of women and girls. This includes the law on the prohibition of discrimination, laws recognizing particularly vulnerable groups, such as the recently adopted law on the alimony fund, which primarily supports single mothers, and the recently announced law on parent caregiving status, as well as laws addressing the prevention and suppression of domestic violence. These legislative instruments are crucial not only because they define rights, but also because they create obligations for institutions, ensuring that policies and public services are shaped in a way that protects women and girls. At the same time, we recognize that laws alone are not enough. Removing structural barriers that prevent women from fully exercising their rights required coordinated efforts across multiple sectors. For this reason, Serbia approaches access to justice through a wider social development perspective. Strengthening systems of social protection, improving the availability of public services, and supporting families all contribute to creating an environment in which women and girls can more easily seek protection, information, and institutional support. Particular attention is given to women who face multiple forms of vulnerability, including women in rural areas, women with disabilities, and women exposed to violence. Through cooperation between judicial institutions, social services, and civil society organizations, we aim to ensure that support mechanisms are accessible, responsive, and effective. In line with the Doha Political Declaration and Social Development, we believe that inclusive policies and strong institutions must go hand in hand. Access to justice is not only about legal remedies, it is also about building trust in institutions and ensuring that every woman and every girl can live free from discrimination, violence, and exclusion. International cooperation and dialogue, such as the one we are having today, are essential for accepting these goals. By sharing experiences and good practices, we strengthen our collective ability to build societies that are more just, inclusive, and resilient. Serbia remains committed to continuing reforms that promote gender equality, strengthen access to justice, and support social development policies that leave no one behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Minister Tatiana, for sharing with us as well Serbia's vision and initiatives to advance women's empowerment and justice. Thank you so much. Let me move on, and it gives me great pleasure to pass the floor to my dear friend, Mrs. Jan Beagle, Director General of the International Development Law Organization, IDLO. Please, you have the floor, Jan.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador, distinguished ministers, Madam Chair of the CSW, Excellencies, colleagues, and friends. I'm grateful to the State of Qatar and UN Women for bringing us together for this very timely discussion. When I participated in the World Social Summit, I was encouraged to see the strong emphasis in the Doha Political Declaration on effective and inclusive institutions, the rule of law, and access to justice. And the summit reaffirmed clearly that access to justice for women and girls is not optional or peripheral. It is fundamental to social development globally. We must move from words to action. We know that too often the laws on the books are not the laws on the streets. So building on IDLO's over 40 years of experience working in all regions, I would like to highlight 3 key investments in people-centered justice systems that can empower women and girls and accelerate social development. First, we must identify and eliminate discriminatory laws and practices. When laws guarantee equal status and those guarantees are implemented effectively, they reshape economic participation, social cohesion, and institutional trust. if a woman cannot inherit land because discriminatory laws persist, or because local authorities refuse to enforce equal inheritance rights, her economic security is undermined. If a survivor of violence cannot safely report abuse, or if cases are delayed indefinitely, impunity prevails. Or if a girl's right to education exists in law, but cannot be realized when she is forced into early marriage, then legal protections remain theoretical. IDLO works with UN Women and national partners to conduct legal assessments that identify discriminatory provisions against women and girls and provide recommendations for reform. And we've recently launched a new report that synthesizes lessons from our work on promoting legal equality across multiple country contexts. Recommendations include strengthening enforcement mechanisms, improving data collection, supporting strategic litigation, and ensuring sustained political commitment and financing. Second, we must make justice institutions work for women and girls. Good laws and policies are just the start. Change requires transforming how justice institutions operate, how services are delivered, and how systems respond to the lived realities of women and girls. We also need to challenge persistent social norms that often limit remedies available to women. And we know that where justice systems function fairly and accessibly, they protect women's rights to property, inheritance, work, education, and bodily autonomy. And where they fail, inequalities deepen and social development stalls. We've seen that when justice systems become accessible, fair, and responsive, the effects ripple outward, strengthening societies as a whole. Third and finally, we must empower women and girls to use the law. Our experience in Afghanistan illustrates that empowerment can lead to positive results even in the most challenging environments. Despite severe restrictions on women's participation in public life, between 2023 and 2025, legal professionals supported by IDLO provided over 800 legal consultations to women and represented more than 400 cases in court on behalf of women clients. Behind these numbers are women claiming inheritance rights, challenging child marriages, and obtaining access to land and property. In all regions, our community justice initiatives, which raise awareness of rights and provide legal aid, have reached tens of thousands of women and girls. And we also involve men and boys. They must be part of the conversation and part of the solution. Madam Chair, if we are to realize the promise of the Doha Political Declaration, we must place the rule of law at the heart of our efforts. Access to justice transforms rights from promises to realities. IDLO stands ready to deepen partnerships with all of you, to scale up proven strategies, and to explore innovative approaches to close the gender justice gap. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director General Jan Beagle, for sharing with us IDLO perspective, of course, on how to strengthen the rule of law and women's access to justice to advance the social development commitments as well set in the Doha Political Declaration. Thank you so much. Dear colleagues, we are supposed to be joined by our dear Dr. Sima Bahouth, Director General of UN Women. We know that she will join us later in the session. So let me move on. And I would like now to introduce one of our discussants to offer brief reflections on today's discussion and how partnerships with civil society can further strengthen women's access to justice. And in this, I would like to introduce Ms. Gillian de Souza Nazareth, who is the chair of the NGO Committee for Social Development, as well Executive Committee NGO, the Executive Committee for the NGO Committee on the Status of Women. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, ministers, my name is Gillian de Souza Nazareth. And as we gather today in the spirit of the Second World Social Summit Outcome Document and the agreed conclusions of CSW 70, we are reminded of a simple truth. Sustainable social development is impossible without gender equality and peace at the core. The Second World Social Summit outcome called on us to build societies that are inclusive, resilient, and rights-based. It reaffirms that eradication of poverty, expanding social protection, and investing in health, education, and decent work go hand in hand with advancing the rights and empowerment of women and girls. It recognizes that the feminization of poverty, unequal access to resources, and unpaid care work are not side issues. These are structural barriers that hold back social progress for everyone. The agreed conclusions call for the full and meaningful participation of women at every level of decision-making, because we know that when women are at the table, peace agreements are more inclusive and more durable. Imagine if we had laws that insisted that every woman and girl must have access to education. Imagine if we had laws that every woman must have access to property, ancestral and her own. Imagine if we had a life where women could vote without issues being between their maiden name and their married name. And it goes on. So I am very heartened to see, because when I came to the UN many years ago, there was the reverse on a panel like this. There was one woman and all men. So in due respect to the Minister of Singapore, this is change happening right here. Ultimately, social development, gender equality, and peace are mutually reinforcing. When women and girls can enjoy our full human rights, communities are safer, economies are stronger, and the likelihood of conflict is reduced. Our task is now to move from words on paper to actions on the ground, backed by the document of the Second World Social Summit, backed by CSW agreed conclusions, financing and accountability, the voices of and leadership of women and girls. If we fully implement the Second World Social Summit document and the agreed conclusions of CSW 70, we will not only advance the rights of half of the world's population, we will be laying the foundations for more just, peaceful, and sustainable societies for all of us. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gillian, for very thoughtful reflections and for highlighting the importance, the role played by civil society organizations in advancing women's empowerment and access to justice, and as well, following the full implementation of the Doha Political Declaration as well. Dear colleagues, excellencies, we can now move on to the open discussion time during this event, and I will of course, we have a couple of distinguished participants who have indicated their interest to speak. So I will first give the floor to a few of the participants, again, who have indicated. And let me begin by giving the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Norman Chawadri, Permanent Representative of the People's Republic of Bangladesh to the United Nations. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are pleased to join this very important discussion. Madam Chair, Bangladesh strongly believes that access to justice cannot be achieved through legal reforms alone. It must be supported by inclusive social policies. This has been clearly reflected in the Doha Political Declaration. Like many developing countries, Bangladesh faces not only resource constraints, but also various developmental challenges, including impacts of climate change. Yet our experience shows that strong social policies and inclusive justice system can ensure access to justice and empowerment of women and girls. Allow me to highlight 3 approaches from our experience that may be adaptable or replicable. First, women's economic empowerment. Through microfinance, small and medium enterprises, and livelihood programs, we have lifted millions of women out of poverty and supported their financial independence. Economic security gives women the confidence and resources to get access to legal services. A woman with financial independence is in a better position to seek justice. Second, connect social protection and justice. Since independence, Bangladesh has followed a people-centered development model. Our national social security strategy adopts a life cycle approach from childhood to old age. Nearly 15% of our national budget is allocated to social protection. Vulnerable women, including women with disability, widows, destitute women, receive cash support. When social protection reduces vulnerability, women are in a better position to seek justice. Thirdly, coordinated support service. Our one-stop crisis center provides legal, health, and psychological services in one place. This approach has made justice more accessible. All these measures have been taken because we firmly believe that access to justice is connected with economic opportunity, social protection, and institutional support. We remain committed to advancing the Doha Political Declaration's vision of social development grounded in dignity, equality, and justice for all women and girls. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, my dear brother Ambassador Salahuddin. Let me move on and give the floor to Mr. Laminar Bari, Deputy Chief Director in the Ministry of Women, Family and Children of Côte d'Ivoire. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I wanted to highlight that I'm going to make the speech in French, so I want to make sure that there is a translation for everyone. Thank you. Madame l'ambassadeur de l'État du Qatar auprès des Nations Unies, Madame la Présidente de la 70e session de l'Assemblée de la CSW 70, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres et chers invités, je voudrais d'entrée de jeu transmettre les salutations sincères de Madame la ministre Nasseneba Touré de la République de Côte d'Ivoire, qu'une urgence de dernière minute a empêché d'être sur place et qui m'a chargé de délivrer le message dont la teneur suit. Les moments dans lesquels nous vivons aujourd'hui, qui sont marqués par des troubles partout dans le monde, prouvent à quel point la déclaration politique de Doha offre un agenda déterminant pour la cause des femmes dans le monde. En effet, en adoptant la trilogie éradication de la pauvreté, promotion de l'emploi et renforcement de l'intégration sociale, la déclaration politique de Doha offre à l'ensemble des États membres des Nations Unies un horizon de sécurité pour les jeunes femmes et les femmes dans le monde entier. Ainsi, pendant que nous sommes réunis pour parler d'accès à la justice, à la lumière de la déclaration politique de Doha, il me plaît, au nom de Madame la ministre de la Femme, de la Famille et de l'Enfant de Côte d'Ivoire, de partager l'expérience qui est la nôtre à travers ces 15 dernières années dans la perspective de la consolidation de l'égalité entre les hommes et les femmes et dans la dynamique de l'accès à la justice plus souple pour les femmes à travers notre pays. Comme vous le savez, pendant près de 10 ans, entre 2000 et 2010, notre pays a traversé des moments difficiles, marqués par une guerre civile qui a mis en question l'existence même de notre État. Au sortir de cette situation, sous le leadership éclairé de M. le Président de la République, son Excellence Alassane Ouattara, la question du genre a été placée au cœur de la stratégie nationale de développement social et cette stratégie se décline en 3 grands axes que je me plais de partager avec vous. Du point de vue économique, il s'est agi de créer les conditions pour que les femmes aient accès à la propriété et aux instruments économiques leur permettant de prétendre à une égalité et donc à la justice. Ainsi, à travers le FAFSI, Madame la Première Dame investit plus de 50 millions de dollars chaque année pour l'intérêt de plus de 2 millions de femmes et donc près de 5 millions de familles qui ont vu leurs revenus augmenter de plus de 30% ces 5 dernières années. Dans la même perspective, et en vue d'assurer la représentation politique des femmes, notre pays vient d'adopter la 2e génération du plan national de la résolution 1325. Ce cadre nous permet de développer une législation prompte à améliorer les droits des femmes dans leur représentation politique. Et pour votre gouvernement, chers invités, chez nous, les 2 seuls ministres d'État sont des femmes. ce sont les ministres d'État en charge de la fonction publique et les ministres d'État en charge des affaires étrangères. Du point de vue de la lutte contre les violences basées sur le genre, nous avons recensé plus de 9000 cas cette année. Et ces cas ont été pris en charge par les structures du ministère de la Femme et les 95 plateformes multisectorielles en charge de la lutte contre les VBG. Dans cette même dynamique, à la fin de l'année 2025, le gouvernement a lancé 2 programmes structurants, que sont le programme de développement des initiatives et des capacités économiques féminines en vue de leur autonomisation et le programme d'autonomisation des femmes par les compétences technologiques et la protection de l'enfant. Ce programme vise à investir 120 millions de dollars sur les 5 prochaines années afin d'assister 10 500 coopératives et sortir près de 500 000 femmes de la pauvreté. Madame la Présidente, chers invités, l'expérience ivoirienne ces 15 dernières années est celle d'un pays qui prouve que par les efforts continus, l'on peut, à partir d'une situation désespérante, construire les sillons des plus grands résultats, tant du point de vue de la quantité que de la qualité. À ce propos, la Côte d'Ivoire et le Qatar partagent ainsi une vision commune d'une société plus juste en faveur des femmes et dont les piliers sont amélioration économique, renforcement des instruments juridiques et investissement dans l'avenir à travers l'éducation. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much, Mr. Barry, Deputy Chief Director, for your very important contribution. Let me move on and give the floor to invite Ms. Ganelda Viscos, Coordinator of the Cabinet of Social Policies of the Dominican Republic. Please, you have the floor. Let me move on, and please, I would like to call on Ms. Nada Zamal, MENA Youth Policy Board Lead of the World Food Forum. So sorry, I believe some of the colleagues have not been able to join us for the session to speak, to take the floor at this moment. I am aware that the distinguished representative of Hungary would like to make an intervention as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates. I'm Kincső Kovács, former youth expert of the Hungarian United Nations Youth Delegate Program, representing AWCDH. Our youth's biggest challenge today is a paralyzing sense of uncertainty. To truly advance the social development commitments, in our search for a solid ground, we are increasingly trying to find certainty in artificial intelligence, consulting it to guide our choices and make critical decisions. This dynamics is amplified by a stark global reality. An esteemed 5 billion people lack meaningful access to justice. We hope AI can close this gap. Yet, because the technology is rapidly evolving, there is the possibility it might occasionally generate unverified information. As these systems seamlessly integrate into our lives, recognizing their boundaries naturally becomes harder. We must remember our enduring human advantage over technology, our capacity for moral reasoning, empathy, and ethical judgment. Crafting preventive regulations for exponentially evolving technology is an extraordinary challenge. Because current legislation is inherently reactive instead of preventive, we cannot rely on the law alone to protect women and youth. We must demand strict human oversight. Ultimately, lasting peace and true community resilience are not generated by machines. They are cultivated by human beings committed to a justice system that leaves no one behind. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Hungary for this valuable intervention. May I call on the Executive Secretary Association for Women and Development Research of Mali. I hope she is with us. Seems not the case. Oh, please, please.
Hello. Hi. Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm a Canadian delegate here on behalf of the Women's Network for Change, an organization that aims to address the status of women and girls in Iran and the issues they face, access to justice being one of them, and being critical as the position of Iranian women and girls remains precarious. And of course, as the political situation in Iran continues to deteriorate minute by minute. I am pleased to be in attendance for this conference, as today's conversation is being led by the Qatari delegation addressing the plight of women and girls in a shared region. It is my intention to contribute to this conversation by highlighting the alarming and devastating realities faced by Iranian women, in particular, female political prisoners and the overwhelmingly deplorable conditions of their prison environments. I'm also here to highlight Iran's population of highly educated, capable, and willing professional women whose professional development, capacity, and achievements have been arrested and diminished by the country's unemployment crisis, in addition to the intense gender discrimination they face while doing all that they can to enter the workforce. And of course, we cannot forget the Iranian regime's lack of transparency regarding the issue of child marriage in Iran, a critical issue that disproportionately affects young girls as young as 10 years old and likely younger. In 2024, the regime halted the report and publishing of statistics regarding child marriage in the country, which is a blatant shirking of their obligation to fulfill even this prerequisite to building accountable solutions to this issue and the subject of our dialogue this year, which is access to justice. According to the 2026 annual report on the status of women and girls published by the NCRI, between 500 to 600,000 children are married each year, with those numbers likely being much, much higher. This document also reports a 91% increase in women executions in Iran, which is absolutely shocking. By the end of the year 2025, 2,270 prisoners were executed in Iran, including the shocking figures of 19 political prisoners and 12 public executions. 1,080 prisoners were hanged in just 3 months, October, November, and December of this year, and that's before the uprising started on December 26th. At least 65 of those executions were women, which represents a 91% increase compared to the previous year. We demand accountability for these failures by the current Iranian regime. And my question for you today, the esteemed panel, is how do you plan to address the regime's deliberate failures in securing access to justice for women and girls? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your intervention. We are delighted to welcome our great sister, Dr. Seema Bahouth, Executive Director of UN Women. Let us allow her to take her seat. She's the busiest woman this week, alongside our great chair, Ambassador Maritza. Take a breath. And I pass the floor to you.
Thank you, my dear Excellency Sheikha Alia, Permanent Representative of the State of Qatar. Thank you for convening us. Madam Chair of CSW, congratulations on the agreed conclusions. Excellencies, colleagues, partners, all protocols observed. This CSW's theme of access to justice is foundational. Justice underpins every right to which women and girls are entitled. It is foundational for social development as well. The Doha Political Declaration reflects not only the full fabric of social development, but also the ways in which its components are interwoven. It reminds us that access to justice does not and cannot stand alone. It is inherently linked with social protection, with education, with decent work, health, and strong families and communities. It is why, when justice is denied, all of society suffers. Across the world, we see progress in legislation that enshrines equality, not least in the Middle East and North Africa region. Institutions are being built or strengthened to respond to the rights and needs of women and girls. Social policies are being improved, creating an environment which better allows women and girls to claim their rights. Yet, we know, too, that no country offers women and girls full equality in justice or before the law. And when I say no country, I say that globally, no country offers women and girls full legal equality in justice. And we know that this reality plays out alongside inequitable care responsibilities, poverty, violence, and exclusion from decent work. Together, they make justice a distant aspiration for too many women and girls. Across the MENA region, UN Women works to support countries to advance reforms on care, on social protection, and family-friendly workplace policies. The development impacts of these reforms are considerable, not least in terms of enabling women to enter and stay in the labor market and to participate fully in public life. In 2025 alone, UN Women supported Lebanon to amend its labor law to allow for flexible work, Jordan to incorporate gender-responsive budgeting, recognizing the differentiated needs of women and men, children, youth, and persons with disabilities. We provided support for Qatar's expanded social protection law, which provides widowed and elderly women with more reliable income support and health coverage. And we are currently working with our partners at UNESCO and the Arab Women's Organization towards the first ever Arab States Regional Care Economy Roadmap. Excellencies, we are active globally too. For example, through our flagship transformative initiative on Transform Care, we support member states to strengthen care systems and to enact care-related legal reforms in over 50 countries, 50. Excellencies, dear friends, we have been at your side as you implement the Doha Political Declaration, and we remain there, embedding women and girls' access to justice in all our efforts for social development with you, our partners. There is much to do, but much clarity also on how to do it. We can close gaps in access, invest in social systems, and more so, that justice and development together become a reality for women and girls everywhere. There could be no better place than CSW 70 to energize and recommit to our collective efforts, and UN Women looks forward to working with you all as we do so exactly together. I wish you a peaceful Ramadan, and may peace prevail also across the Middle East for all women and girls, and may peace prevail for all women and girls globally as well. And I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Seema, for these guiding and inspiring remarks. And of course, we wish you all the best of success this week after the major accomplishment yesterday under the leadership of Ambassador Maritza. Dear colleagues, we reached the conclusion of our high-level event today. We made it on time. And I would like again to thank my dear sister, Ambassador Maritza Chan, Chair of CSW 70, our distinguished ministers, our amazing panel, all participants for their valuable contribution. Today's discussion has reaffirmed a clear message: ensuring access to justice for women and girls is not only a legal imperative, but a fundamental pillar of inclusive and sustainable social development. Today's exchange also reflects the continued momentum generated by the Second World Summit for Social Development and the commitments set out in the Doha Political Declaration. We hope that the ideas and experiences shared today will contribute to the ongoing deliberations of the 70th session of the Commission on Status of Women and to advancing concrete progress for women and girls everywhere. Thank you so much, and we wish you a very successful week ahead. Thank you.